Hey everybody, welcome to the Parlor at NAMM. We've got an incredible guest for you, which we'll introduce to you in a second. His name is Jeff Gitty Gitelman, and boy, his credits are incredible. But first, NAMM is coming up. You want to go there. We're going to have incredible panels. We're going to talk about sports and music on one panel. We're going to talk about world music with folks from Afrobeats and Latin music and K-pop. And then we're going to have some superstar producers. That's going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 23rd through 25th in January in Anaheim. But that's not all. We're going to get you some badges. Shortly, keep watching us. We'll get you some badges. We may select a few of you to follow your stories and see what's going on. We may give a bunch of you plugins. So stay tuned. Come back here. We got some good stuff going. That's NAMM, January 23rd through 25. Be there. As for Jeff Gitty Gitelman, how about this? Emmys with her, Grammys with folks like Victoria Monet, and worked with Beyonce and worked with Muni Long, and on and on. One of the most brilliant conversations I've had in all my interviewing over 10 or 12 years. This is a great dude, a great guy from you to learn on, and we are happy to present to you Jeff Gitty Gitelman. What's up, sir?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Your facility is amazing to me in terms of capacity. You started playing jazz at 14. So between being a multi-instrumentalist and a producer and a writer, and is there one thing that dominates the other thing, or is it just comes up as needed?
Yeah, it's I think the totality of everything that I'm enamored by and everything that I'm passionate about kind of just helps me and goes into helping me produce and make records.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I am a Canadian who went through Kentucky to get to LA. You're a Moldavian Jewish guy from back east who, and to me, what happened in having a varied background is I like a lot of different things. Yeah. Is that similar with you?
Absolutely. I love that you asked me that because a lot of people don't know that about me. You know, that I didn't even speak English till I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And so I think, if I may speak candidly, I think, you know, my background growing up Jewish in Moldavia, you know, we were a minority. And when I came to New Haven, Connecticut, moved to Hamden, Connecticut, Chestnut Hill Apartments, and you know it wasn't the most luxurious place.
Yep.
And we had a humble start. I didn't speak English, and my friends were all minorities. You know, they weren't other necessarily American Jewish kids. You know, and so I heard all kinds of music, whether it's rap, jazz, Latin music. I heard all that stuff in the apartments. It would throw my friends, and so I think again that adds to just my experience and what kind of music I ultimately make.
We share a similar path. So in Canada was one thing. My parents divorced. So we went to Kentucky in the middle of the civil rights movement, and I got to playing going, Mother, why are they calling me these names, Mother? So I kind of had to learn my blackness or get my ass whooped. And some of that was being able to relate to people through music. We went from really good, my father was a pro football player, and then my mom, we ended up in food stamps.
Wow.
And so I was hanging with people that I just had a cultural shift, but I got an appreciation for other kinds of people, other kinds of music that have really informed me now. So very similar to, you know, taking what happens in your environment and then having it become part of your soul, and it comes back out in your creativity.
Absolutely. I wouldn't change that for the world. I'm sure you wouldn't.
Not a bit.
You know? And I have a daughter, she's 5, and you know, I'm very happy that we're blessed and she's growing up in Toluca Lake, California. Yeah. And, you know, but I often wonder, like, how can I give her the same, you know, not the same experience I had, but a similar experience that could ground somebody for the rest of their life, you know?
It's important.
Yeah. I remember my mother, you know, she was, when we first moved, she was a nanny. She was a designer, fashion shoe designer in Russia, but it was communism. So that wasn't like a glorious position, but so we moved, but then she was like, you know, being a nanny, vacuuming floors, just taking care, like doing things that really she she didn't come up doing in her field. That was so, I remember picking her up and she was vacuuming this floor and I was like, wow, isn't she a fashion designer? But then I remember her working really hard and getting her resumes out and then getting a big position in New York City. And she ended up working up and working at Fila and becoming, really changing basketball culture. My mother designed the original Grant Hill basketball shoes for Fila.
That's amazing.
So here's this woman who barely even speaks English and is essentially guiding the culture in a certain direction. And kids wouldn't even believe me in school that my mother designed those shoes, And so I feel like coming back all these years later, I guess is not much different than what I do.
No question.
I am really proud that I helped make the music that kind of pushes culture forward.
Yep. And to the audience, the important thing to know is that when you don't think you're being affected by your surroundings, you are, and they can be done and turned into ways that help your creativity, that can help you be unique. Like, you have to embrace what's happening to you, because it might not be clear now, and all of a sudden it comes out later and you become a Grammy Award winner and an incredible songwriter, or, those seeds were planted and you didn't know at the time they were going to birth that way. But that's part of the magic of this creativity.
Absolutely. And that's your truth. I think in the industry, like, we know that, when something is hot today, it's not hot tomorrow. I think the worst thing you could do is just, you got to be aware of the trends, but you can't just follow trends for a
100%.
living. And you have to be aware. I don't want to say that you can't completely dismiss all trends, because you have to know what's in sight, what's in your peripheral. But at the same time, the one thing you have is really to trust your taste and who you are, and those experiences. I mean, that is your truth. If you can't trust that, I don't know how you could have longevity in this business.
And I think what Gitty not only is teaching you, but as an example of, is that you have to be a little bit fearless. You have to say, okay, I see what's happening, but I'm going to go here. And let me see what happens when I go here. Because you don't want to run to get into the pack. You want to get outside the pack and make your own signature. And you do that now by saying, you know what, I'm going to borrow some gumbo and I'm going to put a little sausage in here. But has anybody put sushi in gumbo?
Right.
What would happen there? And all of a sudden you got something really special. He's experienced it musically. We had a great conversation before we started this about how Pensalo's Place had affected him. And we all just tried stuff and said, you know what, I'm going for it. Let's see what happens. So being fearless, being aware is a really important thing. And also, to his point, loving what you do so that you're remembering how it hits you and how you feel and how it makes your emotions happen, that you're not this autocrat, this technocrat that just says, I got to plug in, I can do this, and I got to sample. Okay, a lot of people do. Now, what's the next level?
Exactly. And especially now, man, with AI, me and Max were just talking about that earlier before we started. Like, it's really easy for AI to deliver something that's good enough right now.
Right.
But I think what's really going to separate us is being good is not good enough.
That's
anymore.
right.
You've got to be great. And so that's still the people that I really choose to work with. And really the standard that I hold myself to is being not just good, but being great. And
the thing that's fascinating about your career, when, the names I mentioned earlier, are you at the point now with success that you sort of make sure you're working with things that inspire you and make you feel good? Sometimes people do things for checks, nothing wrong. We got kids to feed and mortgages to pay.
It's called cash for trash or trash for cash. Listen, we, again, I came up watching my mother having to do what she had to do. And so there is a part of me that has this blue collar mentality of like, listen, and I love that. Honestly, this is not necessarily the question you asked, but I don't blame anybody for doing anything. And honestly, commitment is a good thing. And if you're committed to take care of your family, I don't judge what you have to do. But yes, for me, I know that when I love something, I know I put in my all.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in that book, it talks about that an employer will pay its employee only enough to not quit. And then the employee will then work only hard enough to not get fired.
Not get fired.
But when you love it, You're not on that. It's a whole different thing. You're not on those rules. And so I know when I love something, it's time for a check. I'm going to do it until it's done, even if I got to cancel my other things. And even if I really love it, I'm going to make sure it's the best. And so I just think that's the best way for me to operate. Operate is not to just chase a check, but really the money is going to come when I do the greatest thing I've done.
Absolutely.
And so that's a direction that I follow.
And I think that the idea that you allow yourself to be thoughtful, but also feel, there's a duality there that I think is important for you to understand, audience. Like, you can be cerebral, or you can be feel, or you can do both.
I think both is amazing. I love that you say that because I came up playing jazz music. And so jazz music is based off of improvisation. However, you can't just get up there and just do whatever you want.
Right.
You have to go through intense, rigorous.
Yes.
I laugh because it's crazy. You have to really be good enough before you even get up there and start to improvise. You have to know what you're doing. And I in my writing career, I find that a lot of writers can be really either conceptual or they can just get up there and freestyle and just see. And I think those are two beautiful methods and processes. But I love to be able to do both. And that's what makes us just really dangerous as creatives in a good way, is that, when we could both use that part of our brain and just really improvise and almost let the animal instinct come out. And then also we could use the conceptual part to really clean it up together. It's something I always work on.
And I think it makes giddy, because not everybody can sort of pull that together. I have a left brain, right brain capacity, and I'm so happy I have it, because there are times I can go over here and then I can go back over there, or I can combine them and come up with ideas that resonate with the marketplace, but also feel individual. And we interviewed somebody 5 or 6 years ago who won a Oscar for sound design for Mad Max 2. And I said to him, how do you know when you're at your creative peak? And he said, I took actor's lessons and they taught me how to cry. And he said, when I'm creating, and now when I get to the point where I'm in tears, I'm at my peak. And I was like, that's the beauty and specialness of what we're in. Like, we're in this thing where, that's not required to be a barista.
No. And that's, yeah, I know. And that's the magic that we still can't explain. And in some ways, that's our payment right there. 100%. That's our payment when we make it. That's the payment right there, is that you feel before the record is even finished, before anybody else even critiques it or it comes out and becomes a hit or not.
Yeah.
You feel it right there. And so if I'm working on something and I don't feel that, I'm lost. And I just can't imagine how people could just hand stuff in and do it without really getting that feeling. And so if they can and they're successful, I bow to them. I just know I know that it doesn't work for me.
The type of person you are, let alone the type of creative person you are, I would assume that with different artists, there are lessons you derive from working with them. Who's affected you in such a way where, a light bulb went off, or you were informed of something new, or a process or something? Is there anybody you've worked with that all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, working with Babyface, I think obviously it's just every time I learn something new every time. And one of the things that, I learned from him is he doesn't really write things down. He just remembers it. And if you can't remember, well, it must not have been good.
Must not have been that important.
And so I love that I took that approach to my, not so much lyrics, but because I do forget things a lot, but melodies. I learned that ABBA used to do that. And I don't know if this is true or not, but it really inspired me. I learned it. I heard that they used to compose something, go to lunch, come back, and before they press play, if they could sing back what they did before lunch, that it was strong enough. And I do find that with some of my songs that after I work on it, maybe the next morning without playing it, if I could hum the whole song, I know whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's it's physically infectious. My body is telling me that it can't forget it.
Right, right.
And so I love
great
that,
marker.
I love that Kenny that's his method of not just being able to remember it. And so I took that away from him. When I was working with H.E.R, listen, I'm in LA, we do about 400, 500 songs a year, whatever, you know what I'm saying? H.E.R told me that it took him 12 months to write Take Me to Church. And man, if you ever go through the lyrics or listen to that song, holy moly, that is a perfectly written song. And so that taught me, like, listen, nobody cares about the 500 songs that you did last year, but everybody cares about this perfect Take Me to Church masterpiece that's still going to be here.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter how you did it or how long it took you. It just matters how good it is.
Well, you have a really interesting kind of through line to your work, that all the work feels like it had, well, most of the work that has been rewarded, let me put it that way, because I don't know all the work, but it's all substantial. Like, you don't have piffle work. Like, oh, that's just a piffle. You know, it's a cool piffle and it's popping, it was cool. Like, there's weight to what you do and weight to who you work with. You know, Victoria Monet is a writer. That's other level stuff. So she's got to be with people that can do what she, or I think about Teddy Swims and other things you've been around, or even projects that haven't been successful, but the artist has weight and they're on their journey. You don't put that as a manager, you put that in the hands of people who are equally weighted, and you shoot for that shot, you know, and part of what I respect so much about your craft is you're one of those guys. Like, when I ask you who affected you, you started at Babyface and then go from there. You know what I mean? That not everybody gets that opportunity. And I think your comfort level with being giddy musically is what's so cool.
Thank you. I think for me, Herb, I think it's because I'm a late bloomer, and I've had some time. I've had a decade of failure before I even started producing. You know,
that'll shape you, bro.
That will shape me. And,
yes, man.
It really, it reminded me of who I'm not, and it just always reminds me of who I am. And I can't lose my experience. I can't take away the fact that if we were to discuss a genre, I've taken the countless hours to actually study the genre. I can't take that away. You know, I can't unhear it. If I hear something, I can't help that I'm hearing it because of my education, of me educating myself and knowing the history of a certain piece of music or a genre. And yeah.
No, well, what's interesting, I think also for the audience, it's really important to know that education comes from a couple of different places. You can formally educate yourself and it has a place, but then you can't let it limit you. There's some things you learn in the street or in the studio and other kinds of things, right? And it's that combination that you have to be open to receiving.
Yes.
Right?
I love that. One of my favorite teachers, jazz legend by the name of Hal Crook, taught me in school. He said, listen, you could learn how to play in about 5-10 years, but you're going to spend the rest of your life playing like you don't know how to play, channeling the inner magic and the innocence. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, but that is I think it's a great point, because we could learn how to do this. We could learn how to use the machines and the plugins, but every single day is still a challenge to come in and just hear it the most natural, innocent way, the way I used to hear it when I was a kid, and those feelings that I used to get when I first heard that Beatles record, and just thinking from a pure emotional place. A lot of times it is work to kind of put the conceptual brain on hold.
You know, on my way over here to do the interview, I actually emailed Billie Eilish's managers a couple days ago. We were lucky enough that Phineas's first national exposure was on our show.
I love that episode.
Oh man. And he's
done a couple since then.
He's done, he's done some NAMMs, done some
stuff. The first episode that he did is when I learned that he used just Logic plugins, and you guys were like, "Wait, so you just
in a bedroom?"
Like, wow, that's amazing!
In a bedroom,
it just shows you it doesn't even matter. It's the taste in the ear. And
100%.
I love that episode.
And Billie has a song out called "Birds of a Feather," amongst other things. And it's so simple. It's almost Billie Eilish doing R&B. And I hit her managers about a week ago, and I was like, thank you for ruining my sleep. Like, I can't stop playing this, and I love you, but I'm pissed off at you. So tell Billy. But it was this liberation of feeling her being herself, doing her thing. But it's the simplicity, the genius in the simplicity was part of it. Then the other thing that my staff is going to have to, because I'm crack addicted to this. I found a Prince video of him playing live at the Forum in Inglewood, and he's playing Play That Funky Music, White Boy. Then he segues into Hollywood Swinging and ends on Fantastic Voyage by Lakeside.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a 13-minute exercise in star power live, like you cannot imagine. I play it over and over. I'm look up, it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, I can't take this off. But I think I'm echoing along with your point that when it's in you and you feel it that way, and that honesty, and it touches you that way, you're getting to something, and it helps become your guide. And you realize it's not about being perfect. It's about being honest.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. I love that because I deal, as you do as well, I deal with a lot of A&Rs and people that run their business, and what they look for that in us.
Yes.
They look for those of us that have that vision, because
Absolutely.
a lot of times they don't know necessarily,
Completely.
and which is, I don't blame them for. The artists themselves don't know what they're going to do.
That's right.
And so a lot of times it's up to us to say, hey, I have an idea.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Who knows?
It's just based on shit that I like.
Absolutely.
But I think this can work.
Yep. When I was managing Brian McKnight, he brought in a song called Back at One. One's like a dream come true.
Love that one, of course.
You know what it was based on? When you get a stereo and how you put it together. 1, you pull out the speakers. 2, you plug them in.
Yes, assembly.
3, you turn it on. I was like, hey, that came from that? He was like, yeah, man, I didn't. I was like, it was his biggest record ever. And who knows? Another funny story is I had the opportunity to be Maurice White's partner for a minute. And he was describing how CBS executives came in. They were Earth, Wind & Fire. Big deal, right? And he had a CD sitting on the desk, and he would not play it for the label. They were like, Reese, what is that? So he's playing them their new album, and he's like, this is nothing. This is just me. It's a creative thing, whatever. And they begged him. So he finally played it. It was Boogie Wonderland. It was their biggest pop hit. Now, he didn't think it was anything, but he just had an idea. He was going to throw it up. And then all of a sudden somebody heard it and went, are you kidding me? So we're all after this elusive thing that nobody knows exactly how to get to it, but you just go for it, and then you see where it ends up. And sometimes you can feed your family by doing that.
Yeah, and even these days, you just never know. Because you can't even take an artist to the tastemakers that used to be able to. Now you can't predict a hit. You can't make it happen. Right. You can't, no matter how much money you put into it, as we've seen.
Yeah.
You can't just make something. And so right now, whether it's TikTok or another social media outlet, you know, the fans are reacting to it. The fans are making it a hit. So sometimes, like Maurice didn't know, we don't know, right? And even the artists, sometimes you don't know. You just put it up there, and it's out of your hands.
Yep. You know what I correlate it to? I'm curious to see what you think. So, you know, I can't boil bologna, but I can watch every chef show ever, because the process of making great food, to me, I actually interviewed the chef at Verse.
He's amazing.
Chef O is amazing, but he programs his menu to kind of where Manny's curating the music. And I said, making a great dish is like a song. You know, this element might take it there. Presentation is important. How is the plate proportioned? All that stuff. And you can blow it with one wrong ingredient.
Yeah.
Or make it heaven by.
And every single one of them is different. Like, even though you did this dish before, it's different. It's impossible to make it the same
100%.
Twice. And same thing with songs. It's just, you could work with the same people and the same kind of a sound, and it's just no two things are the same. It just makes it
very
magical.
Different. In your process, are you a big plug-in guy?
Nope. I love that you're asking this. No, I'm quite the opposite.
I love it.
I'm quite the opposite. And I don't do it to be a purist. I do it because it's the shit that I like. And I do it because it's easier for me. I have all real stuff I go through. Okay, let me start with the synths. I have all vintage synthesizers. I have a vintage amp and all, all real guitars and vintage microphones and vintage Neves. And the reason why I do it because it sounds good to me. And I have this thing where I feel like I've never heard anybody else doing it. And after 14 years of recording the tape, I love the sound of tape because I'll never forget the first time that I heard my guitar, take a guitar solo through a tape and record it on tape, and I heard it back. I'm like, oh, that's why it sounds like the feeling I had when I first heard Jimi Hendrix when I was 9 years old. That feeling, it was crazy. Like you smell something, you're like, wait a second.
Hold up.
Yeah, I know that. When I heard my guitar through a tape, I was like, wait a second. That's the feeling I got when I first heard Jimi Hendrix play a note.
Yeah.
And it's a different medium than zeros and ones tape. So for 14 years, I've been recording, 15 years now, I've been recording on the tape. And only last year, I just figured out how to make it the quickest, best process. So I basically do this thing where I record direct to tape, and it's at the same time as I do digital. And so when it comes up a playlist, it's already recorded tape. When I go for that vintage music, it's easier for me instead of using the plugins and sit there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes tweaking the plugin. I just run it through the vintage stuff and it sounds exactly how I want it to sound. It's quicker. It's quicker for me.
And I would suggest, if I may, better. Like you're
I didn't want to say that. You could say that.
I can say it. It's better.
I think so too. I would argue, because here's the thing. Here's what's going on. I'm not against any of these apps that you could download. It's very convenient. And to be honest, I do when I need a quick little thing. Quick little stomp. I don't have it handy. Let me go.
Right.
I'll go and I download a sound. But I had this epiphany where, a lot of the patterns in let's just say rap music. A lot of the patterns in rap music has been kind of the same. You got the 808, the hi-hat, and you got the clap on 2 and 4. And so, it makes a lot of the music similar because of the compositional element. However, what if we are all using the exact same clap sound that we all downloaded for a penny, and now it's the exact same hi-hat and the exact same, it is literally the exact same DNA of a record.
Yep.
Versus, let's say if I play the same note on the same synthesizer or even the same drum machine, the same Linn drum machine. You ever record a Linn drum machine, you look at the audio file, it's circuitry. 2 audio files are not the same.
Right.
It is not the same sample. And I looked at it and I said, oh, wow, it's the same snare button, but those are 2 different transients. And so just by sheer circuitry and analog sounds, it's actually, they're different sounds than what everybody else is doing. So to get that proprietary value of what it is that we're doing, I like not using VSTs in the same sounds personally, but I think it's convenient. I'll go somewhere else. The irony about it, my richest clients, like the biggest stars, they don't even rent out studio. I'll go to their living room and I'm like, wow, this is a crazy nice house, but there's no sound treatment in this and there's no instruments in here. But okay, I got the superstar right here waiting for me to do something.
Yep.
So I'll pull up the VST, which I'll then redo when I get back to the home base. But I was excited to talk about that today because I'm in an interesting position where I came up before Pro Tools and I came up playing, and one of the best things I've got about coming at it from a musician point of view is that musicians can play a record from start to finish. And that means we know we can stay consistent. And if the bass line is the core of the song, we know to keep it consistent. However, we know that the second chorus ain't the first chorus and the third chorus ain't the second chorus.
Right.
And so we know how to play and curate. And so I love that I came up knowing the old school skills, but then now also we got the Ableton and the Pro Tools and the plugins and all that. And I love being right in the middle of the 2 generations and being able to use FL Studio and to get that sound, but also know what it's like to go sit at a piano and write a song that way. I think we're at a very exciting crossroads, and that's one of the things I pride myself on, is being right there in the middle.
And also, because of the way you approach it, you're freed. You're like, wait, I can dance in between this. You don't own me and this don't own me. I can take what I respect here. I can take what I do here. And it turns into something Gitty does. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's crazy too. One last thing I'll say is about that is that a lot of times the song, a good piece of, man, I could read a book right now. I could read Hemingway's, one of Hemingway's, The Sun Rises, or any one of his books, and they'll still give me that feeling when I first read it. Sometimes you hear a piece of music, you're like, wow, this is a timeless piece of music. Other times you hear it, you're like, okay, that was so last year, nobody's doing that anymore. So when we're using this timeless classic stuff, you'd be surprised how much better it ages, you know? And so I'm able to place records and give people records that I did more than 5 years ago, and because it just doesn't age, because it's something timeless about it, so it's kind of a better business model to me as well. Like, how do you want to last throughout the decades?
100%. I work closely with a guy named Harmony Samuels, and Harmony will play me a song. I'll go, man, that is ridiculous, man. Did you cut that last night? He's like, no, I cut it like 6 years ago. Like, you did? And it just holds up. It's just good. But what's similar in you and him and most people who do that, your involvement and love for music has to do with touching, getting to the point where it's a feel thing. Technically I can get a song out, but you guys do work that touches you, and then that work lasts forever. Like, being touched is a whole different thing than just hearing a record.
Absolutely. And it's really, a lot of times it's getting the artist to really open. And to go back to your question of what have I learned, some of the biggest lessons I've learned weren't even music related. It's really how to be there emotionally for the artist and comfort them and get them to open up and be the best version of themselves.
100%.
And that's what's going to make you a great producer, is when you allow them to be great and allow them to fly.
And that's a trust thing, isn't it? Like,
it is.
There's a relationship that you have to have with somebody. Says, I trust you, I'm going to go with you.
Absolutely. And honestly, that's a two-sided coin, because I still deal with it a lot, is that a lot of it is allowing the artist to be comfortable and do what they want. But, which Cam, I'm looking at you, producers, it is really our responsibility to also be a mentor to these artists and kind of challenge. If you think that they could do better, it's your duty to tell them, hey, listen, I love this, but I think we could beat this. I think we could do better. And if you don't push them, who will? If we don't do this as songwriters and producers and engineers, if we don't push them and tell them, listen, I know what you're saying. I'll give you one version this way, but listen to me. If you trust me, in my opinion, this other version I think is better. And I think and a lot of times, I came up with kind of like just it is a service industry, but like when I go to omakase, I just say, I'm not going to tell you what. Listen, you're the chef. Tell me what I should be eating, curated for me, because I'm not as knowledgeable as you. So I truly believe when an artist comes to me, is because I have some wisdom that they don't. So what is the point of me just doing exactly what they say? My job is to listen and to say, you know what, I agree, or I'm going to challenge you here.
Exactly.
And so
absolutely,
I think it's a twofold. There's that story about Quincy. Michael wanted to take out the and Quincy said, no, you're not touching that.
The amazing thing about people like yourself that get to a point where all who you are is in how you make your music. Like, it's the person that you are that is coming through the music that you make. Has a lot to do with your family, how you're raised, what you're affected by, all that kind of stuff. And the folks that break through to us, that touch us, share that thing. How did Curtis Mayfield feel? How did Kendrick? How did, there's something that they went through that they're still articulating that we go, oh, it's funny, on Jay-Z's Show Me What You Got, and there's a line where he says, y'all got 2 months to get your thing together, good luck. When I hear that line, it's hard for me not to run down the hallway and just go kill something. I'm like, and it just touches me in such a way that it fits actually my business ethos. Like, great, you all come up with an idea. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to smoke it. I'm going to absolutely smoke because I'm challenging me.
Yeah.
Nothing against you.
Yeah.
I'm challenging me to go to the next level. And so what's fun for me, particularly in this job, I get to meet people like yourself who have that internal thing. So I know if there's a Gitty song, I'm going to listen to that going, there's going to be some special sauce up in here somewhere, some way. I absolutely love it. As you sit here today, success, doing things, are you optimistic about the future? Are you excited about where we're going?
Absolutely, man. I think this is a crazy time.
Oh, baby.
I think we're reinventing the wheel as we speak, 100%. Man. And I see the labels doing it. I'm paying attention to the business. They're reinventing the model in which they do business.
Yes, they are.
With this, the streaming and the songwriters, I am watching in real time songwriters who can demand certain things, ask for certain things that maybe a couple of years ago back, well, this is not what the standard, listen,
100%.
There is no standard anymore. Right. I'm asking, if you want me, then you got to pay me this.
It's a new game.
And so I'm seeing songwriters get things that they weren't getting.
Ever.
I'm seeing just things get reformatted. And so I'm very excited. I'm very excited about where the business is going. I think right now it's crazy. You could be a nobody with nothing and no label, no team behind you, put something up on TikTok, and before you know it.
Yep. You have an opportunity to go.
You have an opportunity. Yeah. And I love that, man. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm on TikTok every day. That's not my thing, but I'm just so grateful that it could be a runway and a platform for good music, man. I can't even, fuck it, I'm gonna say the name. Man, listen, Muni Long, I took her to every label. Muni Long, I took her to every single label. We had records and nobody wanted to sign her.
Right.
She had this moment on TikTok, everybody went running and she did an amazing deal. And still is thriving because she, as a storyteller, could curate something on social media and she's an amazing songwriter. So through that platform, she's able to curate it and really create hits, which she was always been able to do. But now she has a runway for it.
She'd be amazing in terms of what we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to do a show on it, but I'm going to share it with you off camera. And then at some point in time, I'm going to share it with the audience. I'm working with a company out of Korea, and they have a brand new model on the label side where the fan can invest in a piece of the master. So it means you as the artist, you own your own master. You assign about 20%. That means your fans can not only buy in it, as its value increases, their investment increases.
Wow.
And then they become the people that are out doing field team and say, hey man, you can buy in. And so all of a sudden you're in control of your master. Marketing is going on. You don't have to, if you have 40,000 friends, you might make 150 grand just because they invested in you. And they're not investing a lot of money. There's a cap on it. It's not like they're investing $250,000. You might invest $50, but you have your little ownership share, and then it grows as the value grows. And then they put it on the stock market. So it turns into a security.
That's amazing.
There's new games. I'll introduce you to the principles of that. Oh yeah, it's incredible.
That. I know, that's what makes me excited about it, man. It's to me, there's never been a better time to develop an artist. Now, it is challenging, I ain't gonna lie to you, because of course you got the one person having that moment, and then every label's on their door, and then they sent you to the studio session, and you got this kid in here suggesting lyrics and melody, and I'm like, bro, you've written 2 songs your whole life, which is okay. But we got to figure that out too, people. We got to, this is a great time to develop an artist, but it's also a great time to kind of reinvent the rules a little bit.
Oh yeah. Break it and rebuild it.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We're disruptors.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. His name's Jeff Gitty Gitelman. Hopefully you see what makes him special. You got to come back because we got way more to talk about.
I love that.
We got way more to do. I will tell you that it is inspiring for a guy like me and our team and so forth to be able to know that people like you exist. And it's one thing to hear the music. It's another thing to meet the guy who does the music and go, oh, now it comes together. Now I really get it. Much respect. Admire what you're doing.
And I wanted to say, I don't know if I said this off camera or on camera, but this show has really educated me a lot over the last 12, 13 years. My first production team and my first band as when I was an artist, the Step Kids, we used to watch this. We used to watch the show. I've never did aux sends. I didn't even know what parallel compression was until Dave taught me about it, and
Right.
and so a lot of the techniques I still dive in, man. During the quarantine, I wanted to get better at certain mixing things, and I went right back to the episodes. And
Love it.
I just want to say thank you. What you guys have created is such a well and fountain of wisdom and knowledge, and is for all the engineers, producers, and songwriters. I mean, you have a very strong educational tool that you could just have at your fingertips for free. And so thank you for all that you've done and educated all of us.
My man.
Yes, sir.
Jeff Gitty Gitelman. Enjoy this. Play it over and over and over. And you've just heard from a master and somebody that's redefining the rules moving forward. And we'll see you next week.